When I first saw the pure white fox with 9 tails, I was captivated by her beauty and mystery. She looked like a creature from another world, and the seer beside her told me that I looked different. She gazed at me with those enigmatic eyes, as if she could see deep into my soul. I finally realized that facing my past had made me stronger and helped me understand myself better. But the seer said she didn't know who she was. Chapter 45. Harvey's call came shortly before they landed. The confirmation that Lillian had asked for was secured. The person Harvey had apprehended was, indeed, the person who deraped her. Thank you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah hung up, gripping the phone so tightly it cracked. He had no need to tell Lillian. Harvey's voice would have been clear to her more fears. Lillian's face showed no emotion except a subtle tightening of her lips, but Noah felt her turmoil through the budding bond between them. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Standing up, Arthur and Elle were focused on the screen of the laptop that they would nod every word to. Lillian went to one of the corner seats of the jet. Noah picked up one of Lydia's files and flipped through it, not really seeing the words. He shifted in his seat, throwing the file on the table and looking out the window. The darkness below sparkled with distant city lights. He only lasted a few minutes before moving next to Lillian. He sat next to her. She didn't turn away from the window. The muted lights of the interior made her reflection in the glass faint, haloed by the black sky outside. The bond between them pulsed with sadness and anger and fear, a tangle he had no idea how to help her unravel. He hated feeling helpless. "I'm afraid to see him," she finally whispered, "and it makes me angry." "You don't have to see him." Even as he said it, he knew he was wrong. "Yes, I do." Her voice tight. "I have to see him and shake the hold he has on me. I don't want to live in fear any longer." She gulped. Noah put his hand on hers and squeezed, keeping his silence until she continued. She turned to look at him, her eyes dark pools limned by blue. "I want to kill him," she whispered, her voice tremulous. "Does that make me a bad person?" He leaned forward until his nose was inches from hers. "I want to keep him alive and torture him, slowly, cut off his limbs and castrate him, make him crawl for you, beg for your forgiveness. Then I will pluck his eyes out, bleed him out, let him heal enough just to be tortured all over again, when he no longer knows who he is or why he is punished. Then I will kill him. Who's the worst of the two of us? You or me?" Lillian touched soft fingers to his scarred cheek. "I won't let you. I don't want him to take my lives any longer. I just want him gone. Then he will be gone," Noah said, turning his face to kiss her fingers. "If you want to do it, I will hold him down for you. If you don't want to, I will end him for you. Whatever you choose to do, they'll be there. You won't have to endure anything on your own again." Her bottom lip trembled. She closed her eyes, and a tear sparkled down her cheek. Noah leaned his forehead against hers and sighed heavily. He wanted nothing more than to go back, tear the bastard to shreds and go home to the twins. But they needed to see this to the end. Otherwise, Lillian and the twins would always be in danger. The sky was still dark when they landed in Washington, D.C. The drive from Arthur's private hangar to Senator Brady's house took an hour. One of Arthur's vampires stationed in the city had driven them from the airport, parking the car several streets away from the house. They closed the distance on foot. "He has tight security around his house," Arthur said, walking down the street in a T-shirt and jeans. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Who had ditched her visible weapons, much to her complaints. Next to him, the two looked like a couple out for a night stroll. If you didn't notice the patch on Elle's eye, the way she moved like a fighter ready to attack, or the dark look in Arthur's eyes. Lillian and Noah walked parallel to them across the street. They were less likely to draw attention that way. They wanted their visit to Brady to go unnoticed. not to tip the attention of Blasius or any other party who might be watching. At least, not until they got more information. The houses in this part of the city were large, their front yards neatly trimmed. Why anyone would need so many walls to live in was beyond him. Street lights flickered every time Arthur walked under them, making it difficult to pin down his features. Another trick of his, no doubt. How are we going to get through it? Lillian asked, her advanced hearing picking up on Arthur's voice across the street. They're humans, Arthur replied. Nothing we can't handle. A woman and a dog were walking down the sidewalk on Noah and Lillian's side. The animal was a tiny, fluffy white dog with pigtails tied with blue ribbons. Noah pulled the cat he borrowed from Arthur's vampire down and looked at the ground to shield his scar face from view. The dog growled, digging his little paws in. What's wrong, Lord Arthur? The human woman asked her pet, tugging on the leash. Lydia snorted, covering her mouth, and Noah heard dull stifled laughter from across the street. Noah cowed to help his grin. He peeked at the dog, Lord Arthur, from under his hat. The dog whimpered and tucked his fluffy tail in. The human woman crouched next to the tiny Lord Arthur. Lillian and Noah walked past them, listening to the woman coaxing her dog forward. Lord Arthur, Elle said, her voice choking with laughter. Noah saw her poking Arthur's side. A car sped past them, but the sound of Elle's laughter couldn't be drowned. Humans, Arthur sighed, shaking his head, though there was a fond smile on his face when he looked at his mate. Noah put his arm around Lillian's shoulders. Her smile was radiant. Noah was glad for their brief encounter with the fluffy Lord Arthur. It eased the earlier heaviness from Lillian's demeanor. They reached the address and stayed concealed in the shadows of a big tree in front of a mansion next to it. The senator lived comfortably in a red brick mansion. Two humans stood on either side of the black door, dressed in suits, with earpieces, guns and knife sheaths. Those must be silver blades for the immortals, Elle said. I bet they have silver bullets. Too, Noah mumbled. Elle frowned. I thought those weren't available for anyone. Humans have a way around things. My love, Arthur said, his eyes on the house. They must have silver bullets, especially since the senator deals with immortals. Unlike someone else I know, they must be trained to use the guns. It was one time, Elle growled, glaring at Arthur. One time too many. You almost died, Arthur said. If you had used the gun, you would have saved yourself a lot of pain. You had a gun and you didn't use it. Lydia asked Elle, surprised. Elle groaned. I'm not used to guns. I never even knew they made silver bullets. I just forgot I had it on me. How does one forget they have a gun? Lillian asked. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Arthur added. Elle poked Lillian in her side. Stop stoking him. Salma is already inside, Arthur said. She is a gift for going unseen when she wants to. The security is tight outside the house, but he keeps his place private. Noah asked. A wife, Arthur said. His children are all adults. Two more humans rounded the corner of the house, walking the perimeter, discussing a basketball game in hushed voices. How do we get in without them noticing? Lillian asked. The house was separated from its neighbors by a stretch of greenery. The windows of the house were lit up. One window on the second floor was open, spitting light outside. Through the windows? Noah asked. Yet Sandy left the window open for us, Arthur said. I will levitate you inside. You'll make us fly. Elle asked excitedly. Just for a brief moment. And you need to stay still. Levitating living beings takes energy and focus. A small mistake and you'll be crashing down. How will you get in? Elle asked. You'll climb. Let's go, Arthur said. When the coast was clear, they crept along the edge of the neighboring house, keeping to the shadows. Noah felt Arthur's magic brush him and Lillian, and then they were floating up through the air alongside the house's wall. Lillian was frozen, amber streaking her eyes. Nosfer would have been standing on end if he'd been in his wolf. The brush of Arthur's magic wasn't exactly unpleasant, but it was discomforting to be surrounded with so much power. They climbed through the window. Noah helped Lydian through and turned to look at his surroundings. The room was closed. It was a guest bedroom, with a big bed, bedside tables, neutral colors and impersonal decor. It smelled faintly of detergent. Humans a fresh hint of a vampire. Elle followed them next. And Noah and Elle peeked through the window, seeing Arthur take a running start, jump on the wall and walk on it like it was level ground, his magic thick around him. Elle looked at Arthur through a narrowed gaze. So that's how you did it that first time, yes? He scanned the room. Lillian had pressed her ears to the door and was listening. No one is outside, she whispered. Straightening, they left the shelter of the room. Arthur led the way, following his vampire's directions. Even without them, the vampiric scent was fresh and easy to track. The faint spotlights cast their soft shadows on the beige walls, and the carpeted hallway muted Lillian's steps. She was the only one who didn't know how to keep her footsteps quiet yet. It would come with time and practice. The vampire's scent disappeared beyond a door down the lavish hallway. Arthur opened the door without a knock and slipped inside. Elle and Lydian followed, and Noah took the rear. The office smelled of cigarette, old books, human sweat and a sweet women's perfume that made nose it. Over it all was a thick layer of fear. The office's occupant seemed frozen in time. A female vampire leaned on the dark oak desk, her skin a deep brown, a shade darker than her eyes. Her hair a halo of tight curls that sucked in the light of the floor lamp in the corner. Dressed in white cargo pants and an unexpectedly bright pink tank top. Noah wondered how she managed to sneak in with the colors. Her long fingers twirled a small dagger. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Sitting on either end of the brown leather couch, sat with their backs stiff, not touching the back of the couch. Their eyes landed on Arthur, and the man made a choking noise, his bulging brown eyes attempting to leave their sockets. The woman was made of sterner stuff. The only visible indication of her fear was a pursing of her lips and the skittering pulse in her neck. The vampire straightened to her impressive height and bowed her head. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Thank you, Salma, Arthur said, strolling around the desk. How long have you been here? 5 hours and 3 minutes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Her hands clasped behind her back as she stood at attention. Any movements? Nothing. Good. You may wait outside. She gave a deep nod and stepped out into the hallway. The door closed with a quiet snick. The senator swallowed. Lord Arthur, Arthur said softly, standing behind the desk and looking down at the documents on it. The senator closed his mouth with a snap. Elle leaned against the wall near the window, keeping an eye out. Lillian went to the bookshelves and scanned them. Noah kept his eyes on the couple. The two were afraid. There was no doubt. For some reason, the woman looked more. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It could be because she had nothing to do with her husband's mess relating to the immortals. But Nosgut said otherwise. Mrs. Brady glanced Lillian's way. How long have you been married? Noah asked, leaning against the door and crossing his arms. The woman's lips tightened further. The man glanced at her, gulped and looked at Noah. He barely met his eyes before looking away. 35 years. So she was with him before he got involved with the immortals. Before his political career took off. She was his wife, but she might also be an accomplice. Perhaps more. Arthur flipped through the document some more, then sighed, cracked his neck, and came to sit on the couch across the marble coffee table from the senator and his wife. Senator Brady, Arthur said, stretching his arm on the back of the couch. Do you know why I'm here? No, Brady replied, tugging on the collar of his crumpled white shirt. Lying in the first 5 minutes of our meeting does not bode well for your future. Brady, Arthur said, cocking his head to the side. Noah couldn't see his face, but from the pungent scent of fear, he would guess it wasn't pleasant. Do you know why I'm here? Think about it. I'm sure the answer will come to you. Brady looked a little green. Noah wrinkled his nose. The scent of the man's fear was clogging. His eyes flickered around, no doubt looking for a way out of this predicament. But being caught in Arthur's crusher was impossible to escape. He took a deep breath that rattled his chest. Detaining us in our own house is unlawful, Brady's wife said, her chin raised. Her skin was as sallow as her pale yellow shirt, and her pulse sounded loud, but she still found the courage to glance at Arthur and speak more than a few words without stammering like her husband. Brave woman, Arthur chuckled, and Noah shifted on his feet. The room seemed to freeze. Is that so, Mrs. Brady? Since you seem eager to speak, perhaps you would care to answer my question instead of your husband. My husband is a member of this country's Senate, she said with an ugly curl of her thin lips. He is not required to entertain your insulting presence. Else noted Mrs. Brady shot her a look that only made Elmore amused. Lillian was still looking through the books. She scanned the book spines with a meticulous eye. Noah moved to stand beside her, keeping his eye on the senator's wife. She glanced their way him. I wonder what the esteemed members of the Senate will say if they find out about Brady's shady business with immortals. Elle said. Brady's breathing seemed to grow more labored, his wife more stiff. Nonsense, Mrs. Brady said. We have nothing to hide. Our involvement with immortals is as regular as any other member of the government. Noah almost believed her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Anything interesting? He asked Lillian through their link. Nothing yet. I just have a feeling. Mrs. Brady kept glancing at the books. I noticed as well. Scanning the books closest to him and keeping an ear to the human woman's pulse. They were mainly books about politics. The fiction volumes were mostly old classics tucked in one side of the upper shelf. Has anyone ever told you you're Yoya? Arthur said with an easy, almost admiring tone. Very convincing. Now why do I have a feeling you know exactly what your husband has been involved in? Mrs. Brady. The woman pursed her lips. You can talk now, Arthur said. If you'd rather not. I can think of a few ways to get what I want. Senator Brady suddenly gasped, looking at his pinky finger that was slowly twisting backward in an unnatural angle. Don't scream, Arthur said. I'd hate to have to dispose of your security too. Please, Senator Brady rasped, his big eyes flickering between Arthur and the pinky finger that was slowly going back to its proper place. Mrs. Brady finally looked properly terrified. Arthur waved a hand vaguely toward Noah. Oh, my friend there, Arthur Noah, could loosen your lips. Noah obliged, letting his wolf push forward until he was a nudge away from shifting. A growl shook his chest. He didn't have to try hard to look scary. His scars and his size alone usually scared humans. But when the wolf looked at them through his eyes, the couple lost the last drop of blood in their faces. Senator Brady broke first. I did nothing wrong. His wife put a hand on his forearm, her face alarmed, but he shook her hold off and scooted forward. Lord Arthur, I only did what he told me to do. I cowed in refuse. He was immortal and... Let's start by telling me who this mysterious immortal is. Senator Brady opened his lips, but no sound came out. We can't tell you, Mrs. Brady said tightly. He made sure of it. When I catch Blasius, he'll make sure he can never hex someone again. Arthur mumbled. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. The couple looked shocked that Arthur mentioned Blasius. Let's skip over his identity then, Arthur said. Why don't you share with us what he had you do? Start from the beginning. It was like a dam broke. Once Senator Brady started talking, he couldn't stop. His wife looked both shocked and scared. But she shouldn't be scared of Blas I asked when Arthur was right in front of her. What he admitted to matched some of what they found in Lydia's files. At least what they had read through. Senator Brady, however, was with Blas us longer than Lydia was involved. He had me securing him locations, warehouses, apartment buildings, hospitals. Noah asked. Lydia unfroze and looked at him. Yes, hospitals, Brady said, his breath catching when he briefly glanced at Noah. I have no idea what he used them for, but I found him private clinics where a few hours of privacy could be bought. I want every single location, every single item you purchased instead of Blas is written down. Arthur said. He cannot possibly remember everything, Mrs. Brady said, her hands tightly clasped, white-knuckled. Oh, I think you would make a good made a record. Mrs. Brady, you were dealing with a stronger immortal. I'm sure you weren't stupid enough to work with him without some kind of failsafe in place. In case things went sour between you and Blasius, no one can make a fail-safe against immortals. Noah, Lydian whispered, running her finger down the spine of a poetry book. They shared a look. The volume was thin and worn down, leather-bound with a cursive lettering on the spine. It stood out in the midst of the tomes of economics and politics. Mrs. Brady's pulse jumped. Noah looked at the human woman. She smoothed her down her lap. The first unnecessary movement he saw of her. Lydian pulled the book out and opened it. Noah looked over her shoulder at the pages. Except there were no pages. The book's inside was carved out, and a flash drive was tucked in, glimmering a steely blue. Poetry. My ass. Lydian mumbled. I think we found the failsafe. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah said. Lillian squeezed her hands around the cup. The warmth of the drink burned her hands and Lillian wished it would spread to her chest. She felt cold to her bones. Noah and Arthur were coordinating with Elle's friend Hacker, compiling all their results from Lydia's files and the senator's records. Lillian had left them to it and went to sit by herself in the corner. She couldn't help with much. They would need resources and people out on the field in order to call the locations the records showed, all the purchases Brady had made in Blasius' stead, and take into custody all the people, human and immortal, who had been involved in Blasius' scheme over the past few decades. What they found in the senator's flash drive was more than records. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They found voice recordings and videos. It seemed every time Brady purchased or secured a location for Blasius, he installed security cameras in order to film what happened there. However, most of the recordings were partly useless, because Blasius, like most immortals, used magic spells in order to disrupt human technology around him. However, they still had some shots. Brady also recorded every phone call, every mail between them. Through them, they found out that the very first few years, it was Brady's wife who communicated with the immortals. It seems she wanted to launch her husband's political career so badly she enlisted the help of immortals. Lillian didn't know whether that was stupid or smart. They'd left the senator and his wife to Arthur's people in Washington. They would be held accountable for their crimes in aiding Blasius. Lillian didn't know if they would be subjected to human law or immortal justice, but she had a feeling Arthur would make them regret everything. Lillian looked at a faint reflection in the window. The sky was lighting up into a dim grey. Care for some company. She looked at Elle and smiled, waving her into the seat in front of her. She sat down with a weary sigh and rubbed the eye under the patch. I can't wait for it to grow back fully. It itches like hell. How long until then? Arthur said it's going to be another month or two before it's fully healed. She waved at her face. The lovely scars will take longer to fade. I'm afraid. Lillian wondered if she was bothered by them. There were burn scars on one side of her face, and many other lines a shade or two darker than her fair. She wondered at the strength of this small woman. Everything she'd been through. Elle pulled out a dagger and played it between her fingers. "Is that silver?" Lydian asked, eager to get out of her own head. "Yes," Elle said, looking down at the knife as it blurred in her hand. "I don't think you'll ever be as talented as you in handling weapons." Elle chuckled. "Well, I don't shift into a wolf. So besides, I grew up with a sword instead of toys. I've carried blades for as long as I could remember." Lillian gave a slow nod, curious about Elle's past. "Back there," Elle started, looking at Lillian with a bright green eye. "Why were you surprised to hear about the hospitals Brady rented for Blasius?" Lillian looked at her. She didn't know if Elle or Arthur knew, but for some reason, she found herself telling Elle. It was time to stop guarding that night as if it was a shameful secret. It was shameful, but not for her. She was a victim and she needed to come to terms with what happened to her. To accept that what happened was not right, no matter what other people said. "I only remember distinct memories from the night the twins were conceived," Lillian said, forcing herself not to look down or away. She had nothing to be ashamed of. "I was unconscious. Well, partly. I remember the man's eyes. A distinctive hazel. The smell of hospitals. The coldness. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I thought the hospital scent did not make any sense. But now, it does now, Elle said, knowing that Blasius had ordered it, that it was part of an experiment. He might have wanted it to be done in a sterile and safe environment, particularly if it was done in tandem with some kind of spell he was testing. Lydia's shoulders eased. She was glad Elle didn't linger on the fact that she was raped, didn't question her about it. Elle looked at her and smiled. "If you want help taking care of the bastard, I'm glad to help with anything. Cutting a few body parts, digging a grave, anything you need." Lydian cowled and held her own smile. "I might need help cutting a certain body part. I might need you to hold it." Elle fake gagged. "That is disgusting. I could just burn it. But if you really want to cut it, I guess I can hold it." She lowered her voice, her light twinkling. "Although I don't know how Arthur will feel about me holding another man's weenie." Lillian snorted, then laughed, Elle joining her. She was aware of Noah and Arzing in their tasks and looking at them. Elle made grab by fingers with her hand and a cutting gesture, and Lillian exploded in laughter again. It was silly. It felt so good to laugh about it. The weight of the impending encounter lessened a bit. The sun was safely out of the horizon when Arthur and Elle dropped off Lillian and Noah in Arthur's holding cells in the neutral woods near Nose-Pack territory. They found Harvey there with a few vampires. Harvey looked frazzled, a phone in his ear, his tie loosened and his suit crumpled. His face looked like murder. It was Lydia's first time seeing him not put together. He held up a finger towards them and spoke furiously on his phone. After a minute, he hung up and cursed. He gave Lillian an apologetic look. "My apologies for the language. That's okay. Bad day." "Oh, it's going to be a bad year." Running his hand through his hair, "Arthur filled you in?" Noah asked. "Yes. We're running every resource we have in catching the involved immortals, securing the locations and the records you've got from the senator and Lydia's friend," Harvey said, shaking his head. "It's going to be a raging mess sorting through all of it if we don't get hold of Blasius. Archias the headmaster of it all. No luck locating him yet?" Noah asked. "Not yet." Harvey shook his head. "Enough about that. You're not here to hear about this. You should go inside." Albert's son. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Lillian finally had a name. She didn't know if it was a good or a bad thing. Lillian took a deep breath. It shuddered down her lungs. Harvey preceded them into the stocky, grey stone building. It was a one-floor structure that looked worn out with age and eaten by the woods around it. They went inside, Lydia's vision allowing her to see clearly despite the darkness. Dust covered the ground. Every corner was webbed in grass burst from the stone on the floor and the walls. Nature finding purchase and taking back the parts of the woods the building had claimed. They went down. The stairs elicited memories of the club, but this time Lydia was on the side of the captors instead of being a prisoner. She followed Harvey's lean frame, No's presence of physical warmth behind her, steeling her for the meeting. Her heart raced, and her stomach twisted unpleasantly as Harvey stopped at a door. Lily unfisted her shaking hands. Harvey fished out a key and opened the door. The heavy metal groaned, swinging inside the dark room. The scent of a male wolf, sweat and the sharp sting of silver burned Lydia's nose. Harvey stepped aside, and Lydian had her first view of the room. Hazel eyes. The familiarity of those eyes struck Lily unlike lightning, rooting her in her spot. The man's features came into focus, and for the first time, the memory in her mind, of him hovering over her end of the stinging pain, finally took shape, like she had been too close to a picture before and all she had been able to see were smudges of color. But now she had stepped back to see the whole image. The man on the chair looked like he'd been starving. His collarbones stuck out, his cheeks hollowed and his eyes sunken. The t-shirt that hung off his frame might have been white at some point, but was now a ragged grey, cut in places and spotted in blood in others. Thick chains wrapped his frame to the chair. In a fair world, the twins wouldn't have inherited anything of this bastard, but Lydia Leon could see the shape of his lips in them, the arch of his eyebrow, the slight curl of his hair, and it made her angry. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nelban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The stress, the anxiety this meeting had caused her all melded together into an ugly twist of emotions that bloomed into fury. The man smiled. Oh, look who's here. His throat dry and his voice rough. Long time no see. Dull. No's threatening growl broke the freezing spell on Lydian like glass. She strode forward, her steps firm and her breathing ragged. Her wolf snarled viciously. Slap. The bastard's head snapped to the side with a crack. Lydia's palm stung. She flexed her hand. His cheek bled from her claws. She wanted to make him bleed further. The scent of his blood awakened the violent urges of her wolf. He deserved it. He turned his face towards her again. This time, Lydian fisted her hand and put her body into it the way Kate had taught her, punching him in the jaw so hard the sound of cracking bones echoed in the dingy cell. Her hand hurt like hell, but it was worth it. He groaned, slowly facing her. Blood and the beginning of a bruise on his face gave Leon courage. He was chained, bleeding and weak. He killed and hurt her, and he wouldn't be able to hurt anyone ever again. So you remember me? Her voice unexpectedly calmed. He raised his eyes her way and gave her a wild grin. Of course I do. I don't remember you being so feisty. But then again, you were out of it. His grin turned manic, and Lydian saw in his eyes the pure delight of remembering that night. I had fun. I begged them to keep you awake, but they didn't want to risk you remembering stuff you're not supposed to. Noah was moving toward him. Ashton's eyes snapped to Noah, showing the first hint of fear. Noah, Lydian whispered in his mind. Freezing just a few feet from Ashton, his body was coiled, his muscles strung tight, and his breathing was loud. His anger was a heavy fog in the room. Lydian let it run over her, relished in the way it made her feel safe. It fed her own fury and courage. Ashton's lips twitched upward in an ugly sneer. He laughed, the sound shrill and crazed, and met Lydia's eyes. I guess you found someone who doesn't mind broken toys. He was pure evil. Some people are bad. Some are worse. Some people justify their crimes by flimsy excuses and try to find reason in their wrongdoings. Some people are pure evil. They know what they do is wrong, They enjoy it and they don't even try to justify it. This bastard was one of them, and Lydian was so glad of it. It freed her of the guilt and the shame, and put down any hesitation she had about hurting him. He deserved it, and she would make sure he regretted the day he thought he could hurt a woman with no repercussions. Chapter 46. Lydian put her hand on Noah's forearm and pulled him back. It took several seconds before he let himself be uprooted from his spot. Lydian had never seen his eyes so bright. She could feel his wolf so close it was a wonder he didn't shift yet. Her own wolf was not far behind. "Why did you do it?" Lydian asked once Noah was standing by the door. It cost him to let her so close to the bastard. She knew. She could feel the fire of his own anger and thirst for blood in her veins. Ashton snickered again. "I wanted to." They offered a nice piece of ass. Who would have said no? Lydian said, slowly walking around him. He didn't turn his head her way, his focus on the bigger predator in the room. Perhaps Noah was bigger and stronger, but Ashton should learn that there were fewer things in life scarier than a vengeful woman. There was a cold peace within her. She came to terms with the fact that she had no hand in what had happened to her. No matter what others tried to make her believe back then, she finally accepted her wolf's red fury and violent craving for retribution as her own. She finally accepted that she had every right in wiping him out of existence without a shred of guilt. Those emotions were liberating, and she embraced her wolf's instincts as her own. Who was involved? She asked Ashton. He rolled his head this way and that. "Can't tell you that." "Doll," he said in a sing-song voice. "Can't or won't." He chuckled. "Does it matter?" "I guess it doesn't since we already know," Lydian said, finally stopping to stand behind him. She wrinkled her nose. His scent was sour from sweat and silver. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm." "I'm glad the bastard finally got what he deserves." He tusked. "Serves him right. I told him I want to see the kid I helped create. But I heard they're twins. That makes me proud." Lydian stared at the back of his head, her veins running cold. The image of his hands on the twins snapped something in her. Everything else turned into background noise. Her senses sharpened, focusing on him, his scent, the sound of his breathing, the rustle of his clothing, the outline of his body, the rise and fall of his shoulders. The predator in her rose to the surface. "Do you need him for something else?" "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Lydian, her eyes on the pulse of the bastard's neck. It sounded so loud and lush to her ears. Her skin pricked, lead. "No, we had Mariano look into his head while he was under," Hardy said. "Nothing we don't know." "What the fuck?" Ashton snarled, looking at Harvey. "Why in the world did you have someone in my head? Good. Let him go." Her voice cold. "What?" Ashton asked, swinging his head to her. Harvey's brows raised, but Noah understood. "Let him go. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Harvey gave Noah a look, but proceeded to unlock the chains around Ashton. He started laughing, looking between Lydian and Harvey. "Are you serious? Are you really letting me go?" Harvey let the last of the chains drop. It clanged on the floor. Lydian was shaking, barely holding her wolf back. He slowly stood up and looked over his shoulder at her. His smile froze. His heartbeat increased. "You sure to have brought up the twins," Lydian told him, her voice rough and growl-wise as the shift took over her. "Run." He bolted through the door, and Lydian's wolf burst forward, uninhibited and wild, driven by the dangerous instinct of a mother to protect her pups. Her surroundings blurred, and she saw the world as a wolf. For the first time since shifted, Lydian surrendered completely to her wolf. The lastest of her hesitations at accepting the beast inside as herself vanished in a blaze of vengeful fury. She was out of the door and up the tight flight of stairs in a second, the smell of her prey tugging her forward. a thread connecting them. He had been a wolf longer than her. He was older and more experienced and a better fighter, no doubt, but he cowed and shift. He was impaired by Silver, and he didn't have her drive. She would tear him to pieces. She believed it as much as she believed the sky was blue. How dare he bring up her babies? The vampires outside didn't stop him, and didn't follow Lillian as she dashed through the trees after him. Light on her paws. She was faster than him. Unknowingly, he was heading towards Nose territory. Lillian's wolf picked up her pace. A blur of brown and white. She didn't want patrol catching him. He was her prey, hers to catch, hers to punish. Lillian caught up to him. His feet pumped the ground and his sweat trickled in the air. Instead of jumping on him, she ran parallel to him and looked at him. He met her eyes, his own wide and his teeth set as he tried in vain to outrun her. Lillian put in a last burst of speed and jumped in front of him, blocking his way. His feet skidded on the dirt as he veered away, changing trajectory. Lillian went after him again, and every time he got close to the pack territory, she herded him away. The thrill of the chase and the upcoming fight heated her blood, burning through her veins. The smell of his blood was so thick in the air she could taste it on her tongue. Lillian jumped on his back and they both rolled on the ground. Lily unclosed her jaws on his leg and bit down. Crack. Now he couldn't run. She jumped to her feet. He dragged himself up, his leg dragging. He bared his teeth in a feral grin, his chest heaving. I can take a little human. You didn't fight then, and you won't win now. Lillian's wolf bared her teeth in a feral grin. He was right. She didn't want to win. She wanted to kill him. Noah stayed close. Having Lillian so close to that monster put him on edge. Then he mentioned the twins and Noah was a second away from breaking him until he wished he was dead. When Lillian told them to let him go, Noah knew what she had in mind. He was so close to losing control, but he didn't. Life had taken away any chance of justice years ago from Lillian, and he would not do the same. He would give her the chance to avenge herself and he would make sure she was safe doing it. He was just glad the debilitating fear and shame she had been feeling had vanished, swallowed by a cold anger and a hunger for retribution, and it freed her from the guilt the past had shackled her with. Noah followed them as she chased the bastard through the woods. The weather so bright and clear. The blood would look brilliant against the forest ground. It was the first time Lillian and her wolf felt one and the same. She was in tune with her beast, hunting him down with such ease and skill, as if she had done it 100 times before. Lillian toyed with him, catching up to him and letting him go, never allowing him to get too close to the pack border. Then she was done and she lunged at him, breaking his leg with her jaws. The loud crack echoed. Birds fluttered away, rustling the trees. No creature would come close by. It would be bloody and ugly and painful, and she would do it herself. She rolled to her feet, a magnificent sight of brown and white fur, curled lips stained in crimson. Ashton ragged himself up and stood at a crouching paired by his broken leg. Noah kept his distance. Proud she had made the smart decision of immobilizing him first. With Silver in his blood, he wouldn't be healing any time soon. Lillian lunged again and bit his shoulder. Ashton caught her sides with his hands, digging his fingers in, and threw her aside. She hit a tree, but Lillian's jaws on his shoulder and her claws on his chest had drawn blood, painting the grass scarlet. Blood dripped from her jaws, thick and vivid, as she slowly circled him. Ashton put his hand on his shoulder and winced. Lillian had a lunge. He jumped and cursed. It must not feel good to be tricked by a wolf barely made. Before he recovered, she jumped on him again. She was fast. Noah realized, even without the silver crippling his body, she would have been faster than him. Lillian closed her jaws on his middle. He cried out and punched her side. Noah felt an echo of pain and barely stopped himself from moving forward. Her ribs cracked, but Lillian didn't let go of him. She shook her head viciously and held onto him despite the continuous blows he dealt her, until she tore a chunk of his flesh that she spat aside. Ashton's eyes turned wide with insanity. He screamed and jumped on her back, wrapping his arms around her neck and choking her. Noah's entire body strung tight with the need to intervene. But Lydian stood on her back legs and dropped back, threw her weight on her back, trapping him between her body and the ground. Ashton's body crunched under her weight. Lydian freed herself from his grip and righted her body, swaying slightly. Ashton growled, blood sputtering from his mouth and nose, but he struggled up to his feet. His side bled. His leg was useless, and a bloody hole gaped at his side. His arm hung limp and Noah heard a crunching noise when the bastard moved. Lydian must have broken a lot when she fell on him. Good. Noah watched, amazed, as she started circling him again. A wolf in her element. Looking at her, he could tell she would become a magnificent werewolf if she kept the kind of unity she had with her beast right now. He could feel her trepidation, even some fear. But she powered through, her anger drowning everything else. The first mistake Ashton made was threatening the twins. In those 3 decades of life, a mother wolf scared for her pups was one of the few things that still scared him. And Lydian was one. The two lunged at each other. Lydian tangled with the bastard, not hesitating. Her jaws closed on his other leg and bit down. He punched his 2 fists on her ears, her head, her sides. He closed his mouth around her neck, but his teeth wouldn't be able to bite through the fur and thick skin. That didn't mean it wouldn't hurt. Lydian whined but kept her ruthless bite and shook her head until the bone snapped. She let go and he dropped to the ground, both legs broken. His eyes were wild on Lydian, no doubt realizing she was actually capable of ending him. Underestimating her was his second mistake. Ashton tried crawling away. As he did, he caught Noah's eyes from a distance and froze. Lydian pounced on him. Her wolf-scaring instincts took over. Her brown fur stained red. She bit his neck and shook her head, tearing the tendons and the muscles and snapping the bones until he went still. She changed her angle and bit another side of his neck, again and again, until his head was severed from his body. Lydian stepped back. "it extraordinaire, my noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." The crimson on her wolf's fur glimmered under the sun like red silk. Noah breathed out in relief. He approached. Lydian's eyes snapped to him. The shift rolled over her body, smooth and quick. Noah was beside her, taking off his t-shirt. She stood there, naked and bloodied and shaking, her eyes on the dead man. Noah slipped the shirt over her head. "She is dead," she whispered. She turned, leaned down and heaved, throwing up on the grass. Noah rubbed her back until she finished. She wiped her mouth. "I killed him." "You did," Noah said. She took a deep, shuddering breath, then gagged again, covering her nose. Noah pulled her to him and hugged her, surrounding her entirely with his arms. His death was too quick. She shook her head. "I'm just glad we're finally rid of him," she whispered. "I don't want him around anymore." Noah rubbed her back, smelling the salty tang of her tears and feeling wetness on his chest. For a race of immortals, death came too easily to them. He knew that sooner or later, Lydian would have had to make her first kill, whether it was a decade or a century from now. He was only sorry he couldn't shield her from it for a while longer, but maybe it was for the best. Her first kill was a necessary one. It was not for territory or for rank. It was for justice, for punishment, for protection. It was a noble kill, one that shouldn't weigh too heavily on her shoulders. He hoped it wouldn't. After several minutes, she calmed down and pulled away. "Thank you." He wiped her cheek with the back of his fingers. Her lips were stained with blood and tear tracks sparkled down her cheeks. "What for?" "For staying close by." Then it smiled a little, her spirit peeking through. "And for letting me do this on my own. I know how difficult it was for you." He shook his head. "I don't think you know." Her smile widened. Then she grimaced and wiped her mouth, only smearing the blood further. She was a magnificent sight. He was crazy. He was normal now. Noah put his hands on her shoulders and squeezed. "The twins are nothing like him." She gave a shaky nod. "I know." Lillian took a shower in No's place. They had both shifted and ran to his cabin, where she immediately went into the shower. The moment she saw herself in the mirror, covered in blood and dirt, her stomach upended and she threw up in the toilet, heaving until she felt like her organs would come up her throat. Noah held her hair and rubbed her back, turned on the shower and left after making sure she was steady on her feet. Lillian stared after him as he closed the door. Her heart yearned for a decision she needed to make. She let the water run over her body and faced the stream, rubbing her face and gurgling water. She had killed a man. No, she had killed her rapist. Did she feel guilty? Under the turmoil of emotions she had been through the past few days, all she felt was relief. Impossibly liberating relief. Did that make her a bad person? She didn't know. And at this point, it didn't matter to her. Perhaps when everything settled down, it would catch up to her. But right now, she didn't want to think about it too much. After her skin was raw and wrinkled, she peeked out of the curtain. Only then did she notice the clean white tiles, the grey curtain, the double sink counter, on top of which was a stack of clothes. Noah must be left it there. She hadn't even noticed him getting in, probably because the entire place smelled like him anyway. Noah's clothes. She looked ridiculous in the tee, shirt and shorts that reached down her shins. She tugged on the top's collar, feeling naked without a bra. She left the bathroom, escorted by a cloud of steam. It was Noah's room. Now that she was eager to wash off the blood, she could admire the little details she had missed before, like the neatly made bed with unexpectedly bright blue sheets and pillowcases, the soft grey rug near the bed that was covered in black, for he must sleep there in his wolf, the picture frames on the bedside table, one of Sean and Ava, and the other of all the packed pups on game day. Another picture made her smile. It was on game day too. A picture of her and the twins, taken without her knowledge, when they were cheering for Johnson in the eating competition. Someone must have been tasked with taking pictures for the day. Lillian's ears pricked. Hearing familiar voices, she smiled, her heart lifting as she hurried out of the bedroom and into the open living room. They were exactly what she needed right now. Noah and the twins were setting the table. The smell of Jennifer's chicken pie tickled Lillian's nose and made her mouth water. "Mommy, Nana, Jennifer made us peanut butter cups," Elijah said as soon as he saw her, running toward her with his little legs, a fork and knife in his hands. Lillian scooped him up and hugged him. "Did you keep some for me?" His smell pushed back the memories of blood and death. She kissed his cheek and took a deep breath of it. "I don't know," Elijah said. "I think we ate it all. But it was just us. Elias and Jackson were there too." Ezra finished setting his spot at the table before he joined them. He hugged her leg. Lillian sat down on the floor and gathered them both in her arms. Tears sprang to her eyes. She pushed them back and hugged the twins tightly. She was so grateful for them. She didn't know how she would have turned out if the twins weren't in her life. No matter how they came into this life, she wouldn't exchange them for the world. She peppered them with kisses until the squeals rang in the cabin. The oven dinged, and Noah took out the chicken pie and set it on the table. He caught her eyes over the twins' heads and winked. She smiled. "Thank you for bringing them." She linked him. "You're welcome," he replied. "I needed them close." To Lillian's heart melted a little. They devoured the pie, polishing the crumbs off the oven tray. Enthusiasm, in the pack, full and clean and surrounded by people she loved. Lillian felt more like herself, whether it was the visit to her old town or reading the world of Ashton. The ghosts of her past seemed smaller in her mind, less bleak. She hoped with time they would fade. She did the dishes with Noah, and then the four of them went to Arthur and Elle's cabin. The twins skipped in front of them, bumping into each other. Lillian slipped her hand into Noah's and pressed herself to his side. A stray ray of sunshine broke through the tree canopy and caught his lashes, his eyes sparkling like molten gold. She was suddenly hit by an immense sense of longing. Her blood felt like it was boiling. In a good way, she squeezed his hand until her own hurt. They locked eyes, the knowledge in his reflecting her own. He leaned down and pressed a kiss to her hair. And they kept walking. This was what she loved about him. There were no expectations. He never let her feel the weight of the impending decision about their mating. He let her lead the game at her own pace. But Lydia knew now. She was finally ready to give him and herself what they'd both wanted for so long. They found the seer sitting outside on the porch steps, and a pure white fox laying on the ground next to her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She has so many tales, Elijah said. Ezra was counting under his breath as they drew nearer. Irene's fur looked like it was glowing from within under the sun. Lillian frowned no. It was a trick of the sun. Her fur was actually glowing, and the clear blue of her eyes looked almost startling. She looked like an apparition. She yawned, showing sharp canines, and her tails raised, dancing to a silent tune behind her. 9, Ezra said, looking back at his mother with shimmering wide eyes. Mommy, is she a 9-tailed fox? It was Noah who replied as they stopped in front of the fox and the seer. Yes. Did you hear about them in school? Yes, Aunt Mia told us all about them, Elijah said, his eyes on the white fox turning amber. Irene stood on all fours and shook her white fur. It flowed like water over her body, the translucent strands and the fluffy white tails moving through a wind that existed only for her. Elle appeared in the doorway to the cabin and waved at them. Hey there. Skipping down the stairs next to the seer. I take it you didn't need my help. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lydia uncowled and helped her smile. No, I handled it. Although I didn't get to cut off that particular body part. She whispered the last part. Too disgusting. Noah choked next to her. Lillian and Elle both turned to look at him. What? They said as one. Is that what you're discussing in your free time? Elle chuckled. Yes, so you better watch your back. Noah shook his head. Is Arthur inside? Yes, come in. We were about to call you anyway, Elle said. Going inside. Lillian didn't want to be close to that mess. Not just yet. She plopped down next to the seer. Irene sat down and let the twins look their fill, which they did, going around her in circles, sniffing and gingerly touching her fur. The seer hadn't made a sound. But a few seconds after Lillian sat down, the seer looked at the twins as they slipped off their pants and shifted. Their fluffy brown wolves jumped on Irene, almost disappearing in her fur, and she tumbled on the ground with them. Children are a blessing. Lillian almost jumped at the soft whisper of the seer. She nodded, her smile soft. Yeah, they are. The seer turned to look at Lillian and cocked her head to the side. You feel different. How so? ULS. She frowned, looking for a proper word. Yes, that is the word. ULS haunted. Lillian chuckled. I guess facing my past had a good effect on me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. All thanks to you. The seer shook her head and looked back at the twins. I only deliver the message. That's the easiest part of it all. Something had been niggling at Lillian since she first met the seer. What's your name? She asked the pale woman. If you don't mind me asking. I have no name. Looking down at hands, she stretched them before her, the scar sharp against her translucent skin. I used to have one before, when I was human, but I am no longer human. I am no longer that woman. I'm just the seer now. Lillian hummed, feeling an odd sense of kinship to the woman. Ezra and Elijah ran after Irene through the trees. She slowed her pace considerably to let them catch up to her, and fell dramatically when they did. After a few minutes, Lillian said, I used to see myself as only a mother, but that changed. I'm a mother, a mate, a member of the pack, a friend. But that's who I am to other people, and we can't live our lives defined by our status in other people's lives, no matter how much we love them. Lillian paused, looking up at the clear blue sky. A few clouds floated overhead, one of them shaped like a little wolf. She smiled and looked at the seer, to find her watching her. Her eyes alight. You're the seer to other people, Lydian said. Who are you to yourself? The seer blinked. Perhaps. I don't know who I am. Lily unwinked. You have an eternity to find out. She slowly nodded. Yes, she grinned, then touched the corners of her mouth, as if surprised. Dropping her hand, she met Lillian's eyes. What I do, I will let you know. You do that, Lydian said.